What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Pleasure Principles. I'm your host Yusuf, and today we are going straight into the relationship zone where logic disappears, your nervous system grabs the steering wheel, and suddenly you're saying things like I am fine in a tone that is absolutely not fine. We are talking about the brain hijack, the moment when you are not choosing your response. Your body is you freeze, you fawn, you people please, you shut down, you get sharp. Not because you're broken, because your system thinks closeness equals risk. My guest is Diane McDowell, creator of the Brain to Heart Code, a neuroscience packed method designed to help emotionally intelligent, ambitious people and emotional disconnection and rebuild deep, honest connection from the inside and out. Without with without years of therapy burnout, without having to work harder at love, and without needing your partner to change first. Diane's therapist turned coach and a leading expert in emotional safety. Her work blends brain science, somatic regulation, emotional leadership, and self reclamation. Basically, this is the episode for high performers who can run companies, manage chaos, and lead teams. But in love, you still feel like you're bracing. With that, welcome my guest, Diane McDowell, to the show.
Thank you very much. I am so excited to do this.
Perfect. So let's get into it. Diane, define brain hijack in a way that makes people go, "Oh, that's me." What's happening in the brain body system when connection suddenly feels unsafe?
Okay. So the brain hijack is when we see our partner or our person in our life as dangerous. And so what happens is our reptile brain, our survival brain says danger, danger. And so our survival brain is always scanning for danger. But what will happen is when our person or someone we love, they pause in a conversation or they have a deep sigh or maybe they don't respond to a text for a while. Our brain gets scared and our brain goes, danger, danger. And so, what happens is all the tools that we have been taught, communication skills, pausing and breathing, all of these things that we've been taught go out the window. We aren't able to use them because our brain is screaming danger, danger, and it has gotten hijacked. And the minute we're hijacked, we don't feel like we have choices. So I have lots of people, clients that I've worked with that say, like, I say things and do things I would never want to say or do. But in the moment, our brain believes that this person is trying to hurt us. And so it is wanting to hurt.
And what are the most common hijacks? Hijack styles you see, freeze, fawn, etc. And how
Yeah.
can one like I identify those things?
Okay, so there's ways, and I actually have a quiz on my website where you can take to see which one is your most common one. But here's what I started learning is we have different ones for different things sometimes. So with my husband, what I figured out was I tended to shut down. But when he was fighting with my son, I actually would want to attack. So we have different modes for different things a lot of times. So starting to understand that. But so there's 4 types, but I think more important than the types is really starting to recognize and start changing it. Because it doesn't matter so much what type it is. It is kind of it's helpful to understand what type. So there is the fixer, shutdown, explosion, and escape. So there's those 4, but it doesn't matter which one, it's starting to recognize it. And I to me, what I teach is the first step to recognizing it is owning that it's my responsibility. I cannot blame the other person. What I teach is blame is not useful. Blaming myself, blaming someone else is never useful because blame creates a sense of shame, which makes us feel worse and do worse. So we actually want to own it is my responsibility to understand my safety so that I don't get hijacked. So the first thing I teach people is starting to own that it is my responsibility to create my own safety so my brain doesn't get hijacked. Then I start teaching people how to start becoming the watcher. And I use the example, can you read a piece of paper when it is up against your nose? No. And here's the reason, it's too close. We cannot see it clearly. So in our relationship, when we're hijacked, we cannot see it clearly. Our brain is telling us the person we love is dangerous. We just can't see it clearly. So we have to start watching, stepping outside of our experience and becoming what we call the wise watcher. And so you start watching what is happening. You watch what they say. So it takes a practice. I actually visualize myself outside my body on the right side, and I practice watching myself standing outside of myself, watching the interaction. And the reason for this is we're creating a distance between us and the situation. When we are too close to it, like that piece of paper up against our nose, we cannot see it clearly. So we have to create space where we can almost like look at it, and then we can make a choice of how we choose to respond to it.
Yeah. You know, that is so validating because people most often blame themselves or their partner for most of the things. And you saying that you should not blame each other, instead own it and try to work it, you are reversing the whole script for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think about how do we feel, what emotion comes up when we blame someone, us or them? We feel small. We literally, our body wants to shrink and cover up. Like we literally want to close off. A lot of times we'll want to put our arms over our chest to protect ourselves or our stomach. We shrink our body. So when we blame, it's not useful in any way. So ownership, like I will own where I take responsibility in this. So, ownership versus blaming. Um, One of the things that can be very helpful is start to notice when I think this thought, does my body feel like it wants to close off? If it does, then I need to be careful about that thought. That thought may not be helping me create the relationship I want with my partner. And that's tools I teach in there. But first is really learning how to recognize the brain hijack. And here's the thing, it happens so subtly sometimes where we'll be talking to our partner or somebody important in our life. And then all of a sudden, our brain will be like triggered and we'll get hijacked and we'll start thinking they don't care, that just doesn't matter to them. And so starting to recognize that in the small ones. A lot of times people recognize they're hijacked when when they're really angry and they say horrible things, but there's small hijacks that happen that maybe we don't spin off and attack, but maybe we shut down a little bit or our body shuts down a little bit. So starting to recognize that and becoming the wise watcher is the beginning. The second step, so wise watcher is number 1. So it's ending the brain hijack, becoming the wise watcher. Then number 2 is creating your safety. A lot of times we don't feel safe. And that's what actually happens. I don't feel safe, so I feel like you're a danger. My brain tells me you're a danger, and I attack. So we have to learn how to create our own internal safety. And so many of us think somebody out here should create safety for us. If you would just talk to me different, I would feel safe. If you would just look at me differently, I would feel safe. If you would change my behavior, then I would feel safe. But that is very dangerous because then my sense of safety is based off of your behavior. I don't control my sense of safety, so it's always going to be up and down. And so I'm going to feel unsafe and on edge all the time because it's based off of something I don't have control over. So I teach people how to create a sense of safety inside of themselves. So I call it safety that holds. It's safety that you hold, so you're not counting on someone else to create it. And so we work on that. Then the third part that we work on is return to you. What so many people do in relationships is I use the example of dialing down a light switch that has a dimmer switch, and you can turn up and down the light. And in our relationships, we do that. We slowly dial down our truth. We say it's okay when it's not. We agree to things we don't really agree to. We pretend that nothing's bothering us when it is. And we slowly turn down our dial. And when we do that, then we ask ourselves, why do I feel so cold and disconnected? Why do I feel unimportant? It's because we've turned down that dial of who we are. And so we have to start turning up the dial slowly. And that means being true to yourself, speaking your truth from a place of love. I teach don't do it if you can't speak from love, but speak your truth from a place of love. No more agreeing to what you don't really agree to, but pretending to. It's kind of like every time you agree to something you really don't, you chip away at your relationship with yourself. Every time I say yes, but I don't really mean yes, I break relationship with myself. I break trust with myself. I break safety with myself. But then what we do is we blame someone else. We're like, if you would be different, I wouldn't have to do this.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you have worked with clients who are emotionally intelligent and growth minded.
Yeah.
They have done the work. But for love, for them, love still feels fragile. Why do you think high performers struggle the most with, closeness?
A lot of times because high performers have so much control in their life. They control so many things. But in a close relationship, we don't get control. We try to control outside of us to create this sense of safety, and it doesn't work. So I think there's two answers to that. One is their brain gets hijacked. So when something is really important to us, or we feel very vulnerable, is when we can get hijacked. Um, and a lot of times high performers in the work environment are very controlled, very clear, very concise, very directive. But when they get into their personal life, into their intimate relationships, they lose that. They get their brain gets mixed signals. Do I really want closeness? This closeness feels scary. And so what can happen is we start shutting down our ability to be close. And you can't shut down emotions and feel connected. It just doesn't work. And so that's one part. The other, so our brain will get hijacked as one reason. And then all these skills. So for high performers or high responsibility people, they know all the skills. They've read the books, they've done all the research, they know the skills. But what will happen is they blame themselves when they can't use the skill. So there's a lot of shame. What's wrong with me that I can run my life so well, but yet in my relationship, I spiral. In my relationship, I shrink. In my relationship, I don't say the truth. And they blame themselves. What's wrong with me?
That's true. And one of your strongest points is you don't need to you don't need your partner to change first.
Yes.
That's powerful and also kind of triggering for people.
Yes.
How do you lead yourself back to connection when your partner is still doing their unusual pattern?
Yes. This is so powerful because so many clients will tell me my partner needs to be doing this. And yes, it's great if they do. But relationships are a feedback loop. What we do affects them, what they do affects us.
Yeah.
So if you think about if you no longer let your brain get hijacked, if you start really doing the work and you no longer get hijacked, they're going to be calmer because they're feeding off of your energy. The whole conversation changes. I have so many clients that will say the house is just so tense. Every like conversations are so tense. And I'm like, but it takes two for tension to exist. What if you didn't engage in that tension? You were just like, I'm going to show up as me and the best version of me, and what they do with it is up to them. And when you do that, their energy changes because your energy changes. So when we end that brain hijacking, we can hear what's actually being said instead of adding meaning. Curiosity returns, defensiveness fades. Like we can show up completely different. So when we show up different, they feed off of that energy and they show up different. It's not necessarily that they changed, but the feedback loop is changing.
Yeah. No. How does being the strong one become a subtle form of self abandonment in relationships?
And so here's what happens a lot of times when we kind of identify as the strong one, and I struggle with this, independence, fierce independence. I don't need other people, all that kind of stuff. When we are the strong one, we shut people out. And I have a really quick story on this. This was back in college. I had a friend, I was going through a breakup and we were in the same class together. And I ran to the bathroom crying. And she came in there and I was locked myself in a stall. And she said, "You never let me be there for you. You are always there for me, but you never let me be there for you." And she said, "You rob me of the opportunity to be there for you." And that was like a slap in the face because I thought I was just being independent and strong, but people want to be there for us. And when we are the strong, independent one, we never let people be there for us.
Yes.
So we rob them of that opportunity to be our support person, to be our leaning post.
Mm. And that eventually, makes us alone sometimes, separates us from the people.
Well, and what happens is we blame other people, but we're the one
Mm.
creating it. Because we're strong and independent and don't let anybody in, and we don't want someone to see us vulnerable, then we actually push people out. But then we blame other people that they're not there, but we don't let them in. I think women are do this a lot where they take everything on and then they're mad at other people that they don't do stuff, but women tend to take it on.
Dan, are there any ways that our listeners can connect with you?
Powerfulquestionscoaching.com. As you can tell, I think questions is like curiosity and questions are the most important things we can do in relationships. So, powerfulquestionscoaching.com is where you can find me. Under the tab Work with Me, there is a section of free stuff. There is a free quiz you can take to find out what your brain hijack is. And then there is also a 20-minute mini course on how to start ending the brain hijack.
Perfect. And Dan, is there any last message that you want to leave us with?
I think I would say that the most important thing I wanna leave people with is silencing yourself is not strength. It is isolating. So don't keep trying to be the strong one, the independent one, the one that holds it all together. Let other people be there for you.
Dan, thank you for bringing science, heart, and real tools because the goal isn't to be perfect in love, it is to be present,
Yes. Yes.
to stop
Thank you.
betraying yourself. It's our pleasure. And to stop betraying yourself, to keep the pace, and to build connection that doesn't cost your nervous system. And to everyone listening, if you felt seen today, share this episode with someone who keeps saying, "I don't know why I do this." And if you haven't yet followed Pleasure Principles, leave a review and follow us. It helps the right people find the right conversations. I'm Yusuf. This is Pleasure Principles. Keep it honest, keep it regulated, and keep choosing belonging over bracing. Until we meet next time. Thank you so much.